Hello. Probably working with the kitties to get stuff done, maybe dinner, maybe bedtime. So I'm not going to keep you all long. I just want to, be committed to providing ongoing training, and then you all can always watch it whenever you get a chance. I'm going to try to keep it probably within 15 to 30 minutes max for now, at least until we get a bigger following, and then there'll be time for questions and answers. But anyway, recap of self-reg part 1, right? So here's the book. Dr. Stuart Shanker. Okay. Self-regulation is pretty much the process of understanding our stress triggers. These are my words, okay? Understanding our stress triggers so that we can better manage our emotions. It's just a greater self-awareness of what's going on with ourselves, and then having a plan in hand on how to manage our emotions, right? So from last week, we talked about self-control versus self-regulation. So self-regulation actually gives you a process to follow where you're aware of your surroundings, you're aware of the things that are causing you to feel stressed, you're aware of your own responses, and in turn, you're also aware of techniques or strategies that you can use to help regulate your emotions, to help calm your thoughts so that you have greater self-control. Where self-control is, for most people, it's just one of those things. You'll say, I'll try harder, but, I have not known anyone to be successful and just, saying to themselves, I'm going to try harder next time without actually having a plan. So day 2, we're going to talk about the 5 steps of self-regulation, and then we will start to talk about the different domains. Okay. So 1, reading the signs and reframing the behavior. Now, when we talk about self-regulation, typically the term is used for children. Okay, self-regulation typically is taught in schools by guidance counselors, so they don't get a whole lot of it. If you have problem children, they may learn a little bit more about self-regulation because, honestly, because they may just be more sensitive to stress, and so they need more specific guidance on it. I wish everybody got it, but the reason I'm talking to you all about it is twofold. 1, if you know of a child that has honestly, behavior problems is sometimes how it appears, but usually it's not so much a behavior problem as a stress management problem. They just need help managing the stress that's around them, understanding it, articulating what they need. And if you didn't receive a lot of, I'll say, wisdom about self-regulation when you were younger, which most of us did not. I don't remember learning any of this, right? It was like, you better control yourself. That was it, right? And that's what you thought you had to do. And if you didn't do it, you got the consequences. So anyway, if you didn't master it when you were younger, it's very likely that you've grown up now and you still struggle with managing your emotions. You will also, if you struggle, that means you will also struggle to help your children learn the process itself of managing your emotions by being aware of your environment, the 5 domains, and that's what we'll get into in a little bit. So step 1, read the signs and reframe the behavior. So when we say read the signs, it means, are you essentially acting weird? These are my words. You start acting weird, right? Doing things that you maybe wouldn't normally do. Same for your child. If you notice the child's acting weird, doing things that just seem out of whack or odd, they're zoned out, they're hyperactive, they are responding inappropriately to different things that are presented with them. They maybe are withdrawing from you and you're trying to help. So it's not an exact science. It's just you noticing these differences in yourself or in the child that you care for, because every person is unique in their responses. So once you identify the behavior, instead of immediately saying, okay, this person is acting out, or this child is misbehaving, right? Usually how we label it is misbehaving. We reframe it and we think, okay, if this person is acting this way because they are under too much stress, right? Or their bodies are not able to handle all the stimuli, this could be causing this. So reframing is, if we're talking about ourselves or we're talking about our child, I'll say, for example, now sometimes my oldest son, he'll come home from school tired and it's like a downward spiral from there. Every little thing can just set him off from one temper tantrum to the next temper tantrum. And it can be things that we do every day. It's nothing new that I'm presenting him with, but it's just like it is too much for him to handle mentally, emotionally. And so at a certain point, I'm just like, just go to your room and rest, because you're not able to focus and get your work done. You're not able to cooperate long enough to get chores done. You're fighting with everyone. You're fighting with me. And usually that's the way, I would have dealt with it, right? I just send him to his room to chill out, because everybody who's interacting with him is getting upset. But when I think about it this way, hey, he's been at school where it's been noisy, and I know noise bothers him, or he didn't eat lunch, I know he's hungry, or my son has, pretty severe allergies. Maybe it was one of those days where his allergies were really bothering him and he's just feeling yucky and tired. So I'm now reframing it and putting it in a perspective from, hey, he's not trying to be difficult. He doesn't want to be difficult. But his body is no longer able to manage stress effectively. And that's why I'm seeing the symptoms of the tantrums and the falling out and the fighting with everyone. Again, it can be whoever. It can be a child. It can be yourself. But we have to see it more from a lens of them just wanting to be difficult, and then trying to really just see it from a different perspective. Okay, step 2, identify the stressors. The stressors are in the domains, and we're going to go through those in just a few minutes. Okay, so identifying the stressors there's plenty. We'll go through that in a few minutes. Forgive me, I am going to put some of this in notes for you all. Okay, so you can have a quick cheat sheet. It's a lot easier for me to see it and learn it, so I will put it in a cheat sheet for you, but not tonight. Okay, step 3 is reduce the stress. Reduce the stress. So pretty much that means we have to help that person to get what I would call a safe space. We have to help that person get to a safe space. So, for example, one of the domains is biological domain. So if, like I said, my son, if it's a high allergy day, then being in the house is a safe place away from that, because we have the air purifier going. We keep the windows and doors closed. We keep the AC going. We do a lot of dusting and vacuuming and other things to help keep some of those allergens out of our home. So that helps, right? That reduces some of the stress in that biological domain. Perhaps one of his issues is loud sounds. I have 4 children of all different ages, and yes, it can get really rowdy and loud. So again, for him, sending him to that room might count as a safe place because it's quiet and it gives his brain just a few moments to regroup and gather. Okay, so reduce the stress. Once you identify the stressor, you need to take steps to reduce stress in that area. The 4th step, reflect. Become aware of when you're overstressed. So reflection is usually what we might do at the end of the day, right? We have a long day and we reflect on what went right, what went wrong, what we need to do differently. That's the reflecting step. And 5, respond. That's doing, if not immediately, the next opportunity, that is us doing the steps that we know or we think will help us to better regulate, to be better able to regulate ourselves. So those were the 5 steps. Like I said, I'm going to keep it short and sweet tonight, and there'll be a visual. So I'm going to talk about the stressors right now, the domains of the stressors. Okay, just bear with me. I'm turning. Do. Need some music? No, I don't want to do Jeopardy music. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Okay, we're here. All right, y'all. Okay, so the stressors, they break the stressors down into 5 domains. All right, 5 domains. And yes, you can be stressed in all 5 domains, but you might have a tendency towards one specific domain where you find that you are continually stressed by something in that particular domain, or your child is stressed in that particular domain. So biologic domain includes inadequate nutrition. So if they're hungry, I have some kids that I seem to always be hungry. that would fit in the biological domain. Sleep, right? That child who doesn't sleep well. That parent, that mommy, that auntie that doesn't sleep well, right? Because they have the child that doesn't sleep well. Exercise. It might sound crazy, but yes, being without exercise can cause a lot of issues for some of us. Some of us, we just need to be able to get active. Motor or sensory motor challenges, right? You might find it hard to run down a flight of stairs without holding on. Okay, other things in the biological domain are noise, sights, touch, smells, other type of stimuli, pollution, allergens, extreme heat or cold. Okay, so if you fall into one of these biological domains, and essentially it's saying that you might be a person who's just sensitive to, these sensory things, right? If it's too loud, it stresses you. If it's too bright, the lights are too bright, it's too sunny outside, it stresses you. If it's too hot or too cold, right? I'm sure you've met, people who are just seem so extremely sensitive to temperature changes. These all fall in the biological domain. Okay. All right, the next is the emotional domain. The emotional domain stressors in this area are intense emotions, right? Which we can have for a variety of reasons. For some, it's just personality. It's just part of their temperament. Some people, hormonal, balances or imbalances, which could be for, the good part of your lifetime. Your hormones may just be a little bit to, the left or to the right. New or confusing emotions. Intense negative emotions drain considerable energy, okay, and children and parents alike. And again, some of that is just temperament, right? You might have one of those Debbie Downer kids. That's just their temperament. But those strong negative emotions cause stress in and of themselves. All right. Okay, the third domain, which is we're talking about the stressors now, the cognitive domain, your thinking and learning, your mental processes. So some of these stressors include limited awareness of internal and or external stimuli, right? So this can be when you're experiencing different things that are happening to you, but you are not really able to identify the emotions or the thoughts. You're not able to, I guess, connect the dots so well with your thoughts and feelings about a particular issue. Sensory information, visual, auditory, or tactile. The child or adult has trouble picking up sensory experiences, right? You have trouble understanding because you can't really see any patterns. Again, it's trouble making sense of your world. That's how I understand it. It's when you have trouble making sense of your world. You're having a hard time connecting, maybe people and places, or a hard time connecting concepts. And it's stressful, especially if you are in school, right? Where you're constantly having to make connections, but if your brain is not making those connections for you, and your teacher is there asking you question after question, or you're taking test after test and it's not clicking, right? We know that feeling of your learning is not clicking, right? So that would be the cognitive domain. The social domain, all right? Stressors in the social domain include confusing or demanding social situations, interpersonal conflicts, being the victim of or even just witnessing acts of aggression, social conflicts that result from not understanding the impact of others or of your own actions and utterances. Right? Many parents are surprised to learn that their own expectations, opinions, or concerns about their child's social life and friends can add to their child's stress. Right? So I can give you a good case in point with this. So it's pretty much saying maybe the social arena is an area that you are constantly stressed in. It's just stressful managing not emotions, managing relationships, witnessing acts of aggression, i.e. road rage, right? Constantly witnessing road rage. If social domain is one of the areas that you're more sensitive in, if you have to get on the road constantly and you're in that type of environment where you're driving with angry drivers, that can be pretty stressful. If you are in what you might consider a hostile work environment or a hostile home environment where there's constant interpersonal conflicts, constant fighting, those things will fall in the social domain. But the parent-child relationship can also cause stress in this domain. So my daughter, who's now double digits, right, she'll talk to me about her girlfriends, and sometimes the things that they do are not okay. They are very not okay. And I'll advise her as to, what needs to be done. And that can be stressful for her, especially if perhaps she's afraid to do it because she feels she might be ostracized. Maybe she just doesn't agree with it. Maybe she's okay to continue in her friendship the way it is, even though her friends may be mistreating her. So it does complicate the matter, right? Me as a parent, I'm trying to help my daughter get through these social situations, but the way I want her to handle it is not the way she wants to handle it. So the social domain might be a stressor for her. And the last one is the pro-social domain. Okay, so stressors in this area have to deal with other people's strong emotions, being asked to put the needs of others ahead of one's own, tension between personal and peer values, moral ambiguity, and guilt. In this domain, the stresses that the child needs to deal with grow exponentially. All right. So the social and the pro-social are connected in some ways, excuse me, because with the pro-social, we're talking about personal sacrifice, right? Empathy, sympathy, right? Being able to consider others in some type of relation to yourself. All right. So, like I said, there will be I'll give a handout for this here because it can be a little confusing. All right. So I'm going to go one more time through the 5 steps and then bounce back in and talk a little bit more about what some of the stressors look like. Okay, so 1, read the signs and reframe the behavior, which means notice, hey, they're not acting right. They're not acting quite themselves. And instead of assuming the worst or negatively labeling it, we will reframe the behavior and take it from I would say it's fair to say a more holistic approach where we assess the social, right, the emotional, the environment. It could be difficulty understanding the social cues. It could show up as lack of empathy or anxiety or isolation when in group settings. Okay. I know it's a lot to take in, but that's... Hey, sorry about that. Just technical difficulties. So, okay, so we're close to the 30-minute mark. I'm going to wrap it up. On next Tuesday, I'm going to review what we've covered, and you will have some handouts. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you have a wonderful week. Have a Merry, Merry Christmas if I don't get to talk to you soon. All right, good night.